Before you even say a word, I want you to pause and breathe, because if you clicked on this video, it means something inside you is trembling right now, not loudly, quietly. The kind of fear a man feels when he senses he's losing something he never thought he'd lose. You're not here because she cheated. You're here because you don't know, and that uncertainty can eat the strongest man alive. And I need you to stick with me until the last moment of this video, because what I'm about to reveal is something most men never learn until it's far too late. You deserve answers, not confusion. You deserve clarity, not anxiety. Whispering worst-case scenarios in your ear every night. So before we dive deeper, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's make sure you never walk blindly in relationships again. Now listen to me carefully. As a female psychologist, I'm going to tell you something very few women will ever admit out loud. When a man starts asking, "Did you cheat?" he's already looking in the wrong direction, because women rarely confess betrayal directly, not because they're evil, but because confession requires courage, self-reflection, and empathy. And a woman who has crossed a line is often drowning in guilt, confusion, or resentment she never learned how to communicate. The truth is this: a woman's cheating is almost never confirmed by her words, but always revealed by her emotional patterns. So you keep chasing the wrong evidence, her texts, her social media activity, who she follows, what time she came home, why her phone is locked, whether she smiled at another man. And while your eyes are on the surface, the real truth is happening deep inside her psychology, in a place you're not trained to see. Women don't cheat because of opportunity. They cheat because of emotional shifts, slow, subtle, and almost invisible to a man who's panicking instead of observing. That's why asking her, "Are you cheating?" is useless. If she is, she will deny it. If she isn't, she will feel accused, misunderstood, and emotionally pushed away from you. Either way, you lose ground. So what do you look for instead? You look for the patterns she can't hide, the ones that show up in her energy, not her excuses, her initiative, not her explanations, her emotional presence, not her daily routine, because a woman's heart always speaks, even when her mouth doesn't. And that is where your answer truly lives. Not in her words, but in who she is becoming when she thinks you're not paying attention. If you're still here, good. That tells me you're ready to hear truths most men run from. Let me ask you something and be brutally honest with yourself. Have you noticed a shift in her, not in what she does, but in what she feels like? Because when a woman disconnects, her energy changes before her actions ever do. And most men miss this because they're too focused on catching a lie instead of reading the truth. A woman can control her words, she can control her phone, she can control her explanations, but she cannot control her emotional leakage. The tiny cracks in her behavior that reveal whether her heart is still tied to you or slowly drifting somewhere else. Here's what I mean. When a woman is loyal, you don't have to chase her attention. She gives it freely. She remembers the small things. She softens when she looks at you. She engages in conversations even when she's tired. She tries not perfectly, not every day, but consistently. But when her emotional loyalty begins to shift, the first thing that fades is presence. Not her physical presence, her emotional one. She's there, but she's not really there. Her body sits beside you, but her mind is wandering. Her replies become shorter, colder, or delayed. Not because she's busy, but because you're no longer the emotional center of her world. The warmth in her eyes disappears, the little spark she used to show when she hugged you. Gone. Her laughter sounds different, more polite, less genuine. And here's what hurts men the most. She stops caring about your emotional state, not out of hatred, out of detachment. Once a woman pulls away, your pain no longer activates her empathy the way it once did. She may still act kind, but it will feel transactional, not intimate. This is why asking, "Did you cheat?" is pointless. Because the question isn't about cheating, it's about connection. And once emotional connection weakens, a woman becomes vulnerable to attention from someone else. Even if she never planned it, you need to look for changes in her emotional investment, not her schedule. Changes in the way she responds to you, not in the time she comes home. Changes in how she touches you or stops touching you. A woman who is fully yours emotionally cannot hide it. A woman who is emotionally drifting away cannot hide that either. And here's something that might sting. When a woman detaches, she begins building an emotional life without you. She may still be loyal physically, but mentally, she has already started transitioning out of the relationship. You cannot fix what you cannot see. But once you start reading her emotional reality instead of interrogating her behavior, you'll finally understand what's truly happening. And there's a moment in every man's life when he realizes something unsettling. A woman doesn't pull away all at once. She fades in layers. And if you've been feeling confused lately, it's because you've been watching the outer layers disappear while ignoring the deeper ones that tell the real story. You see, when a woman's loyalty shifts, her first instinct isn't to cheat. It's to protect herself emotionally. She starts by withdrawing the parts of herself she once offered freely. But because most men fear confrontation, they don't ask the right questions. They ask defensive ones like, are you cheating? What are you hiding? Who are you with? And those questions do something dangerous. They push her even further into emotional secrecy. But forget the surface for a moment. Let me show you what actually reveals everything: her emotional reciprocity. A woman who is invested responds to you with energy. If you text her something meaningful, she texts back with warmth. If you're stressed, she tries to comfort you. If you're excited, she celebrates with you. But once another emotional influence enters her life, whether it's a person, a fantasy, or simply the idea of a different future, her reciprocity collapses, not instantly, quietly. You'll notice she no longer mirrors your tone. You give her depth, she gives you neutrality. You offer effort, she offers minimalism. You open your heart, she gives you surface level politeness. This is not a woman who is angry. This is a woman who is shifting. And here's the psychological truth: very few men understand. Women detach emotionally long before they detach physically. Their bodies follow their hearts, not the other way around. This is why looking for physical evidence, lipstick, texts, locations, timelines, keeps you stuck in anxiety. Because the real evidence is something she can't hide: her emotional absence, her sudden independence, her reduced vulnerability, her lack of curiosity about your inner world, and the most painful sign: she stops fighting. A woman who still cares, argues, complains, and expresses frustration because she wants the relationship to work. But when she no longer sees a future with you, or when her emotions have shifted to someone else, she becomes silent. That silence isn't peace, it's emotional resignation. You're not looking for proof of cheating, you're looking for proof of disconnection, and disconnection is always visible long before betrayal happens. Stop beating yourself up for not catching the signs earlier. You were taught to watch her behavior, not her emotional world. No one trained you to see the subtle shifts that reveal everything, but now you're learning, and that awareness is going to change everything about how you handle what comes next. There's something I need you to understand with complete honesty, even if it hurts for a moment. A woman does not emotionally drift without a trigger. It doesn't mean you're a bad man, it doesn't mean you failed. But it does mean something in her internal world shifted, and most men never notice the trigger until the relationship is already sliding off the edge. Women rarely cheat because they suddenly found someone attractive. Attraction alone is not enough. What pulls a woman towards someone else is emotional contrast. She compares how she feels with you to how she feels elsewhere, not consciously at first, psychologically. Maybe with you she feels unseen, unheard, or misunderstood. You may not intend it, but she experiences it. And then someone, even unintentionally, makes her feel validated, admired, or emotionally noticed. That contrast creates confusion inside her. Confusion becomes distance. Distance becomes secrecy. Secrecy becomes emotional attachment. And emotional attachment becomes the beginning of betrayal. But here's the truth: most experts won't tell you. Women don't cheat because they want a different body. They cheat because they want a different feeling. This is why your focus must shift from what did she do to what changed inside her, because the signs are always there. And once you learn them, they become impossible to ignore. For example, she stops sharing her day with you. She stops asking for your advice. She stops letting you into her emotional world. She avoids vulnerable conversations. She no longer lights up when she sees you, even if she tries to act normal. Her tone becomes neutral, not cold, just flat. And neutrality is far more dangerous than anger. Anger means she still feels something. Neutrality means she's slipping away quietly. Another powerful sign is something most men overlook. She starts reinventing herself without including you. New interests, new friends, new routines, new priorities, all emerging from an emotional space you no longer have access to. This isn't always cheating, but it is emotional migration. Her identity is shifting, and she's not taking you with her. When a woman begins emotionally relocating, even if she hasn't crossed a physical boundary, her heart is already exploring life beyond the relationship. And once she crosses that threshold internally, she becomes capable of choices she never thought she'd make. This is why simply asking, "Did you cheat?" is useless. You're not asking the right question. You should be asking yourself, what changed in the way she feels about me? And why didn't I see it sooner? Not to blame yourself, but to finally understand the deeper reality you've been sensing but couldn't articulate. And once you see the truth for what it is, without denial, without excuses, you gain the power to handle the situation like a grounded, emotionally strong man. There's a moment every man reaches, a moment where he stops searching her phone, stops replaying her excuses, stops interrogating her inconsistencies, and finally asks the question that actually matters. What is her behavior revealing about her emotional truth? Because a woman will protect her privacy, her image, and even her guilt, but she cannot hide her patterns. Patterns don't lie. Patterns don't adjust themselves to avoid confrontation. patterns speak the truth she's too afraid to say out loud. And one of the most revealing patterns is this. Does she still treat you like a priority? Or have you quietly become an option when a woman's loyalty is intact? You feel chosen, not because she announces it, but because her daily actions reflect it. She makes time, she reaches out, she checks on you, she values your presence. Even during conflict, even when stressed, there is emotional residue that says, "You matter to me." But when something shifts inside her, whether it's resentment, emotional fatigue, or attachment to someone else, her investment starts leaking. You feel it in the pauses, in the distance, in the lack of enthusiasm. She no longer initiates intimacy. She no longer notices your emotional shifts. She no longer seeks connection. She merely maintains contact. And that difference is everything. A woman who is slipping away doesn't always break the relationship. She simply stops nurturing it. She goes from building with you to observing you, from participating to tolerating, from leaning in to leaning out. And the most painful part, she becomes more comfortable with emotional independence. Not in a healthy, I can stand on my own way, but in a detached, self-protective, distant way. She's preparing herself for a possibility she isn't ready to admit, the possibility of life without you. Another sign many ignore is her emotional unpredictability. Not mood swings, those happen to everyone, but inconsistency in connection. One day she's warm, the next she's distant. One day she's affectionate, the next she acts like your presence is overwhelming. One day she misses you, the next she's annoyed by your smallest question. This inconsistency is not randomness. It's the internal tug of war between guilt and detachment, between wanting comfort and wanting separation. A woman who is still fully with you emotionally is stable in the way she loves. A woman who is torn between you and another emotional path becomes unstable in her presence. And here's the truth you need to accept with courage. You don't need to catch her cheating to know something is wrong. Your nervous system already knows. Your intuition already knows. Your heart already knows. You're not looking for proof. You're looking for confirmation of what you've been feeling for weeks, maybe months. And deep inside, you know you're not imagining any of this. Your clarity is coming. And in the next step of this journey, you'll finally learn what to do with that clarity. Without losing your dignity, your strength, or yourself, you've made it this far. And that tells me something powerful about you. You're not a man who runs from truth. You're a man who wants clarity, even when it hurts. And that alone puts you ahead of most. Because the real danger in relationships isn't betrayal. It's self-deception. It's staying blind because truth feels uncomfortable. But you're not doing that. You're here facing the reality. Most men will spend their whole lives avoiding. So let me tell you something you need to hear. Even if your heart is tired, your worth isn't determined by her loyalty. Your strength is revealed by how you respond to uncertainty. And now that you've learned the signs, the emotional distance, the fading reciprocity, the cracked patterns, the quiet detachment, the question becomes, what do you do with this knowledge? The answer is simpler than you think. You stop chasing clarity from her and start reclaiming clarity within yourself. Because when a woman senses you're desperate for reassurance, she gains emotional power, even if she never wanted it. But when you regain your center, when you approach the situation with grounded confidence, you change the entire dynamic. Here's the truth. If she hasn't cheated, your emotional strength will bring her closer. If she has cheated, your emotional strength will reveal it without a word. So here's what you do. You stop interrogating. You stop searching for proof. You stop monitoring her behavior like a detective starving for clues. And instead, you start observing her through calm, steady presence. The kind of presence that makes truth impossible to hide. You show up with self-respect. You express your needs clearly. You maintain emotional boundaries. You move with certainty, not anxiety. Because a woman who still loves you will feel pulled back toward your strength. And a woman who has drifted too far will reveal herself simply by how she reacts when you stop chasing. If she becomes more present, more affectionate, more engaged, that's emotional truth. If she becomes more distant, more irritated, more evasive, that's emotional truth too. Either way, you win clarity, and here's the final piece you need to carry with you. A man doesn't lose when a woman cheats. He loses when he abandons himself in the process. Your job is not to control her actions or decode her every move. Your job is to stay grounded in who you are, what you deserve, and how you allow yourself to be treated. Remember this, a woman's betrayal, emotional or physical, does not define your value. It defines the health of her relationship with herself. You don't beg for truth. You don't break for truth. You become the kind of man who can handle truth with dignity, strength, and clarity. If this message hit you deeply, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and stay connected here. Because you're not alone in this journey. You deserve answers, you deserve emotional power, and you deserve relationships built on honesty, not confusion.